Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Just in Time Cafe. I'm Tracy O'Rourke, co-founder of the Just in Time Cafe with the Elizabeth Swan. I'm going to be your moderator today. I am very excited about today's webinar, Stay Flowcused, using lean thinking to move from overwhelmed to flow. Don't we all need a little bit of that? I think so. So Stefany Oliver is going to be featured today. Stefany, where are you? I don't see you yet, but I know she's there. Hi, Stefany. How are you?
Hello, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. And thank you for coming to the cafe. Let me tell you a little bit about Stefany. If you don't know about her, Stefany is driven by her passion for helping people who feel overwhelmed, which, makes her our best friend already. She's on a mission to help people find flow in their work, in their kitchen, and in their heart. I love that. She lives and teaches the manifesto of being fueled by plants, fueled by perspective, and fueled by prayer. She currently is a lean coach and a team lead for a wonderful team of lean coaches at Statistics Canada. She loves emerging her passion for food, lean thinking in every area of her life by experimenting in her kitchen. And what's super cool is this has led to her purpose to help people get fueled and stay focused so that they can flow from the inside out. And guess what? She published a cookbook too, Fueled by Plants. If you haven't read that or picked it up, you should. She's an engaging speaker and continues to create more resources to help people find flow, which I love. And you can get her newest ebook and online course online if you like. So welcome, Stefany. So excited. We are all very excited. And so I don't know if we don't see a shared screen. So just this message, Stefany starts screen sharing. Okay, so I can see it, which is kind of strange. You can see it too, right?
Oh, she just said she can see it now.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right, so maybe it's behind something. For those of you that don't see it, everybody's multitasking. You probably have 700 things open on your computer. Maybe we're behind something. Okay, so just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. You can ask questions at any time by entering them into the chat. There's also a questionnaire, but we prefer to use the chat. We check both, though, of course. This session is going to be available for free on the Just in Time Cafe website. We generally post it by Monday of the following week. And if you haven't already shared, please share where you're from in the chat window. We have registrations from all over the world, and we'd love to know where you are right now. So if you haven't already, just tell us where you are in the chat window, and I get to see where everybody's from, which I love. So we have Cindy from Chesapeake, Virginia. Thanks for joining. Alyssa from Tacoma. Creusa, I know you from San Diego. How are you? It's been a while. Dion from balmy Los Angeles. We've got Moshkan. I know she's from San Diego as well. Jennifer, Ruth from Ottawa. We also have Nadia and Molly from San Diego, Esther from Seattle, Anne from Minneapolis, Sharon from Hershey. Kevin, how are you? Thanks for joining. I'm glad you have the link today. Richard, Vancouver, obviously Moshkan from San Diego, Sherry from mid-Missouri, Beth from Kansas City, Jeno from San Diego. We had a lot of people from San Diego. Denise from Montreal. There we go. We got some Canada representation. Woohoo! Myra from Santa Barbara, Christina from Comox, British Columbia, Gail from San Diego, Lynn from Renfrew, Ontario. Okay, you've got some more Canadians in there. Jennifer's from Ann Arbor. Gosh, lots of places. Mississauga, I just had to say that. Ontario as well. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for joining the webinar. I just have a few announcements. We do have another webinar coming up, and we are featuring Dr. Cindy Young, who is on this webinar today. She's going to talk about something we all could probably use a little more knowledge about, and that is knowledge management. So have you ever wondered what knowledge management can mean for you and your organization? If you do, then you need to come to this webinar. You're going to learn about human-centric knowledge management, how you can improve your use of knowledge, and how you can use knowledge management to reduce or eliminate silos. Do any of you have those in your organization? You're also going to learn how to use knowledge management to empower employees and become a more effective problem solver. I'm going to put the link for that next webinar right in the chat so you can join as well. And also the last thing I have before we send it off to Stefany is we have our latest podcast out. And since Elizabeth and I are the creators of this podcast, we decided to hijack the podcast this last episode to dedicate to us. Elizabeth, as many of you may know, has a great, awesome new book that is on the #1 list of many books and in many categories. So we talk about her book, and we also talk about my lean parody music video as well that came out last month. So if you want to have a little fun and maybe laugh a little and celebrate with us, you can listen to the podcast. Okay, I am going to hand it over now to Stefany. Take it away,
All right.
Stefany.
Thank you so much, Tracy. My goodness, I love the energy that you bring. You just perked me up for this presentation. I am so blessed to be here with you all today so that you can learn more about staying focused, how to move from overwhelm to flow. So I am super happy and blessed to be here at the Just in Time Cafe. It's actually a dream come true, believe it or not. It's like one of my bucket list items that I've been dreaming of doing is presenting with Tracy, with Elizabeth, and to share what's been put on my heart to share. So today, here are 5 things that we'll go through today. Just a little bit about me for some context. What is flow? Then we'll dive into the 4 key elements and the Flowcused continuum, as well as something that most of you are probably very familiar with, the continuous experimentation and improvement cycle. So let's just get started. Here's a little bit about me before we get started. I was and is at times, because it's not something you can just fix like this, an overwhelmed mama who wanted more. I wanted more time for the essential. I wanted more peace amidst the chaos of day-to-day life. I wanted more value out of this whole pandemic craziness. And I also wanted more opportunity to create what God has instilled in my heart to share and help people. I'm driven, as Tracy said, by my passion for helping people who feel overwhelmed, because I've been there, I've done that, and I'm done with it. And I want to help you find your flow in your work, in your kitchen, for healthy eating, as well as in your heart. So I'm a lean management coach by trade, but I didn't actually start off my professional career that way. And over the years, the path has led me to some just amazing journeys to becoming, who and where I am today. And I've really been coming into this full expression of who I was created to be as a food creator, speaker, cookbook author, inspirational storyteller, all thanks to this inspiring lean community with people like Karen Ross and Katie Anderson and Elizabeth Swan and Tracy O'Rourke and so many more that are out there in our Women in Lean, specifically in our Women in Lean community. I love merging my passion for food and lean thinking in every area of my life by experimenting in the kitchen, and this has led me to my purpose to help people get fueled and stay focused so that they can flow their best self from the inside out. So I'm really happy that you're here, and I can't wait to share and exchange with all of you today. All right, here's my shameless plug. My new ebook is out, as well as an online program. So if you like what you're hearing and you need help to move from overwhelm to flow, check out my ebook. I'll share the link at the end of the presentation. It's called Stay Flowcused, an introduction to the 4 key elements to create a better daily flow. So today it's literally just, looking at the tip of the iceberg of everything that the book and the training program covers. All right, overwhelmed. I'm sure you've all been there at least once, right? Too much to do, not enough time, feeling super swamped by the demands of the day. Being overwhelmed depletes our energy. And the more I coach people, the more I realize that everybody is in the same boat, overwhelmed by the demands of their day. UK's results of the Mental Health Foundation's 2018 study says that 74% of people have felt so stressed they have been overwhelmed or unable to cope. So let's start a poll. Tracy, if you can help me. On average, please tell me, how many days per week do you feel overwhelmed? Is it 0 to 1? Is it 2 to 4? 5 to 7? Take a moment to check in with yourself.
Votes are coming in.
Awesome.
Very nice.
That's great.
Okay, almost done. All right, are we ready? And I'm going to end the poll and share results. Ready?
Awesome.
So 31% said 1 day a week, 0 to 1. 57% said between 2 to 4 days, and 12% said 5 to 7 days a week.
Yeah. Oh my. That's
But, you know, if you give people the option of 17 days in a week, I bet you some people would pick that.
Yeah, totally. What's interesting in some of the research that I did is that women are more likely to find most days quite or extremely stressful. So there are some results from that show that a quarter of Canadians experience high levels of stress, indicating that they found most days quite a bit or extremely stressful. And when they were asked about the amount of stress of their life, women, 27%, were more likely to report that they felt quite a bit or extremely stressed most days, compared with 23% of men. So, you know, I work at Statistics Canada. We got to throw that data out there. A new report has found that 46% of Canadians are feeling an increased sensitivity to stress more than they were prior to the pandemic. And this is impacting their overall mental health. And according to the LifeWorks Monthly Mental Health Index, many Canadians are expressing more stress sensitivity concerns about themselves and their colleagues compared to pre-pandemic levels. And the list goes on. I'm sure you could Google right now and find so much data to show that you're not the only one who's feeling overwhelmed. So what I want to propose today is a deep dive into flow. Because the same way that, if, you know, speaking to the lean people out there, the same way that our processes get overburdened and need improvement and optimization, our days and our lives get overwhelmed too. They get overburdened, and it makes us feel stressed and anxious and all of that. But first, let's talk about what flow actually is. So positive psychologist Mihaly describes flow as a state of complete immersion in an activity. While in this mental state, people are completely involved and focused on what they're doing. The idea behind his theory is that people are much happier when they enter a state of flow. And this happens when you do something that completely captures your attention. A lot of people will call this being in the zone, right? In other words, full absorption in something and complete happiness while you're doing it. In Lean, we also focus on flow, right? Taiichi Ohno, father of the Toyota production system, said that he had this idea of a fast, even flowing river in which there were no dams that slowed down the flow or rapids that sped it up. So he saw work coming in and flowing so nicely and evenly that it's not coming too fast that you don't have time to catch up and you're always, out of breath. And it's also not too slow that you're just sitting there waiting for work to come to you. The state of flow also goes by another name, optimal experience. According to Stephen Kotler, flow experience expert, flow is an optimal state of consciousness, a state where you feel your best and perform your best. More specifically, the term refers to those moments of rapt attention and total absorption when you get so focused on the task at hand that everything else disappears. Action and awareness merge. It's like time stops, right? If you've played a sport, you have surely felt this flow experience, whether it's a team sport or individual sport before. Whoops. It's the best feeling in the world. For many years, I've played baseball, basketball, ultimate frisbee, and I've felt this flow experience countless of times, whether on an individual basis or with your team when it just, you're going on a breakaway and you just do the ball or the disc just flows from hand to hand and there's no obstacle in sight and you just go and make your point. And there is the ultimate flow experience, optimal experience, and brings so much happiness and adrenaline too, and all those feel-good hormones. In their book, Lean, Managed Work as a Flow System, my first ever Lean coaches, France Bergeron and Joanne Gaudet, describe flow as the process of energy, which is work as effort, moving through a system, a process, organization. So you might be wondering, what does all of that have to do with optimizing my day and getting out of my state of overwhelm? Well, first, I want to make a link between this and flow experience because France and Joanne explained that flow experience, they describe it as when we feel our best and perform at our best, and the activity engaged in is its own reward. When we are deeply focused and fully absorbed in an activity, where every decision and every action flows seamlessly and effortlessly, we are likely in a flow experience. And they also claim that flow experience is the secret sauce of lean. Now, according to me, isn't this what life should be like? Shouldn't we be in continuous flow experiences that make us soar and uplift us and just go from one thing to the next with little obstacle in our way and just having these flow experiences constantly? You see, flow is both optimal experience and energy. So here's what I've discovered throughout all of this. In lean thinking, we manage work as a flow system. But what if we applied this concept to the flow of our day-to-day, where our energy moves through time? In lean, we look at a flow unit, a product or service going through that process of, step A, step B, step C, etc., until it's given to the client. But in our day-to-day lives, we are the flow unit going through the process of a day, of a week, of our life. And finding our most treasured health is finding peace amidst this chaos of life, which starts with determining our daily flow. We are the energy moving through our day. And this requires us to set limits to contain that flow, the same way that we would contain, the flow of value in a process. So what if we applied this concept to the flow of our day-to-day? Now remember, flow follows focus and focus follows limits. Understanding that some things fuel that energy and some things deplete it is crucial to create a better daily flow. Now, of course, life is not perfect. There are plenty of ebbs and flows throughout our days, throughout our week, throughout our months. And especially, I'd say for women, think about our monthly cycles where our energy is affected throughout the day-to-day and different times of the month. But men are not immune to this, by the way, because men have a hormonal cycle too. It's just that unlike women, that is a monthly cycle, theirs is actually daily. So it might not show as much, the different hormonal stages that they go through in the range of hormones because it's daily versus monthly. But anyways, I digress. All this to say, we need to know what fuels and what depletes that energy. And what I want you to remember is this: the human brain is a flow system with limited energy resources. Yes, we have limited energy resources. We can't just keep going and going like the Energizer Bunny. At one point, it will deplete completely. So, this inspired a new word for me, flowcus. Flowcus is the ability to direct your energy to the essential of the moment and the state of managing your day as a flow system so you can bring your best to every area of your life. All right, let's move into how. This is all good. This is all great concept, right? It's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. But how do we get there? So what I want to briefly share with you today is a brief introduction to the 4 key elements to create a better, more effective flow. So I'll describe each element and give you a couple of things to consider in the application of these limits in your day-to-day so that it can help you stay focused. All right, here's the first one. Well, the 4 key elements to create a better flow are focus, time, space, and capacity. So let's start with focus. Harvard psychologists did a study and found that 47% of the time we are thinking about something else than we're actually doing. 47%. This shows that the human brain is very prone to distractions of any and every kind. And sadly, our current reality is overflowing with all types of distractions in all shapes and sizes. And think about it, one of the most harmful distractions is notifications on our phones and computers, emails, instant messaging, group chats, WhatsApp groups, social media. There's always something or someone demanding our attention. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, said, the more we allow ourselves to be distracted by things like push notifications, the more likely we are to unintentionally rewire our brain and neural patterns. So we end up needing the next dopamine hit to function, thus we become fixated on the next push notification. Yikes. Dopamine, otherwise known as the feel-good hormone, plays a role in how we feel pleasure. The Dopamine Rush is a book by Rishab Dasani, and it explains that dopamine is highly addictive. Its excessive use is fragmenting our attention, oh my goodness, and affecting our ability to concentrate in intentional ways. We find ourselves constantly hopping from one thing to the next in search of novelty, not so much pleasure. The desire for the next thing is never ending. Think about it. How often, be honest with yourself, you don't need to tell me, no judgment, it's a safe space. How often are you in a meeting with other people, especially virtually, and you get a pop-up for your email or Teams chat or whatnot, and decide to look at it? You decide to look at it. Or worst off, you turn off your camera so you can actually respond to the email right away. Meanwhile, the people that you're in the meeting with are still sharing and talking and trying to engage. I know we've all been guilty of that, and it takes a huge amount of discipline to resist the temptation of choosing to look at the next thing because our brains want that dopamine. It really wants that feel-good stuff. I was browsing Instagram and I came across this. Who has the longest attention span? So let's read from the bottom. A human in 2004 had an attention span of 2.5 minutes. A dog is generally about 2 minutes. A human in 2023, though, 47 seconds. And a goldfish is 9 seconds. And I thought, oh my goodness, how are we closer to the goldfish than we are to the dog? 47 seconds. And think about it, 47% of the time we are thinking about something else than we're actually doing. So what are we going to do about it? Well, here are some tips to help increase your ability to focus so you can set limits on the distractions around you. Number one is really all about building that self-awareness and discipline to practice your focus. One of the things that I do a lot is I have a sticky note that says 47% in my office near my screen, so that it reminds me if I'm talking to someone, if I'm engaging in a meeting, and my mind wanders to the next thing that I have to do, whether it's putting a load of laundry in or emailing so-and-so, I go back to the 47% and I think, ooh, I need to get back to this person, because right now, in this moment, they are the ones who are requiring my attention. It takes a huge amount of discipline. So I encourage you to take a sticky note, write 47% on it as a visual reminder to stay in focus. The other thing is, remember the concept of one-piece flow, right? In Lean, we talk about one-piece flow often, and we share this catchphrase of stop, starting, start, finishing. How often do you find yourself cleaning your house and you start, let's say, with the kitchen, and you're cleaning the kitchen, and then all of a sudden you find something that belongs to the dining room, so you bring it to the dining room, then you start cleaning the dining room. And then you find something that belongs to the living room, so you bring it to the living room, you start cleaning the living room, and then, oh, something belongs to the kids' room. Oh, let me bring the toys upstairs, and you start cleaning the kids' room. And at the end of the day, you've done a whole lot of cleaning, but you actually haven't finished anything. And then there goes the intrusive negative thoughts of, oh, I still have this and that to do. So why don't we apply those concepts of one-piece flow, right? Stop, starting, start, finishing. Limit your work in progress, one thing at a time, so that we can stay focused. The next one for this is adjusting your push notifications. Don't be afraid of that. Experiment with it. Your phone, your tablet, your computer, all the devices that you use often. Go back to the concept of pulling when ready, not push. Keep notifications only for essential things, like, your family or your team, or something that's really essential that you really need to be disturbed whatever you're doing. Otherwise, you already have the habit of checking your phone. So you will check your phone when you're ready versus when someone is pulling at your attention, which may not be a good time. All right, let's go to the second key element, which is time. Time is the most precious currency we have on earth, but often we fill our time at overcapacity. Zoe Radner, who's considered the lean queen in the UK, she did a study on the efficiencies of systems. So whether it's a technology system, a highway system, or even our brains, she discovered that these systems work most effectively at 84.6%. Okay, let's say 85, right? For simplicity's sake, 85%. This is how efficient, how systems can work efficiently if there is space in them. So if we were to take our time as a system, the 24 hours that we get every day, do you notice that we are obsessed at working at full capacity? We fill every single minute of our day with stuff and then wonder why we don't have time for the important things. This means we need buffer time, we need flex time, we need slack in our day so that we can absorb the unexpected and the urgent. 15% of it in order to be most optimal. So that might sound a lot. For those who are curious, on a regular, like 16-hour day, this means about 2 hours of buffer time. But what do we do generally? We fill our time to 110%, 120%. We're triple booked. Or worse, we simply don't even have any idea how long different tasks will take. So we just go with the flow without setting limits that respect our time. Remember that busy is not a badge of honor. Filling our time with activities, no matter how fulfilling, leaves little time for rest, for play, and for reset. If you take a moment to truly reflect, does most of your time go to value-added activities in your day-to-day, not just work, speaking life here? Or are you at the mercy of other people's calendars and demands? So here are some tips. to help you set limits on where your time goes. First is a weekly no meeting day for work or no commitment day for home. So here's an example of a limit that I've put on my time at work in order to stay focused. Before the pandemic, I used to work from home every Friday, and this would really help me to focus and think and re-energize, have that time, like that strategic time and the time to re-energize. As a lean management coach, I spent a lot of time coaching and training individuals in group and supporting and leading my team. And as an introvert and highly sensitive person, all of that takes so much energy. So in order for me to bring my best self every day, I need some quiet, focused time to re-energize and focus on the strategic parts of my work. So since working from home during the pandemic, I lost my Friday work from home day because we were just working from home every day. And I recognized the need early on that I had to continue to have a day for myself, for re-energizing, for strategic thinking, for work. So I made Mondays my no meeting days. So the only meeting I have usually on Mondays is my daily huddle with my team. And I may make some exceptions once in a while, but those exceptions are clearly outlined and known by my team as well. And if I didn't have that time, I would not be able to stay focused and bring my best self during the week for the other commitments that I have. So consider this, either at work or at home. You know, we fill our evenings with so many commitments for the kids and activities and sports, and which are all really important. But we need some days that it's just clear and you're just together as a family. All right, the second thing is find your prime time for low motivation tasks. They're all there at work and at home. There are tasks that we just don't want to do, that we always put at the last minute or put on the back burner. So whatever your own low motivation tasks are, identify them and think about when during the day, during the week, or during the month, you are more likely to have the energy and the motivation for them. And here's a tip for women. I spoke about monthly cycles earlier, but if you can match this with your monthly cycle, because there's always a week that we have more energy than the rest of the month, you'll be totally flowing. So think about that as well. All right, I have a free bonus download for you. This is a time and energy tracking template, and it's very easy how it works. You know, there's energy and there's time, and you can track one sheet per day how your energy on a scale of 0 to 10 is going during the day, from the time that you wake up until the time that you go to bed at night. And to see how does it ebb and flow, you know, how does it peak where your energy goes. So this is something that you can use to really help you gain more awareness about your energy as it relates to your time. So Tracy, thank you for putting that in the chat. All right, let us move to the third key element. It's space. Space. This is a big one. I just want to touch on a couple of aspects of it. Think about it. How much time do you find yourself searching and gathering information in your day-to-day work? And what about at home? And not just information, tools, resources, anything that you need. How much time? A McKinsey report found that employees spend 1.8 hours every day, which is 9 hours per week on average, searching and gathering information. So put another way, businesses hire 5 employees, but only 4 show up to work. The 5th is off searching for answers, but not contributing any value. Oh my goodness. Looking for information, resources, tools is a huge obstacle to staying focused. And in general, context switching creates a loss of productivity of at least 40% in our day-to-day. Do you ever feel that? Do you ever feel like you're just losing productivity, but also energy and frustration, or you're gaining frustration. This impacts all 4 elements of the daily flow. And people in general think that they are great multitaskers, but there is actually no such thing. Numerous studies show that for cognitive tasks, our brain cannot actually multitask. So why do we suffer in our attempts to multitask? Again, going back to one piece flow. And the antidote to that as well is to get organized. So before starting a task, this sounds so simple, but we don't always do it. Make sure you have everything you need. It's like making a recipe. You want to make sure you have all the ingredients at hand, and this saves both time, effort, and errors with potential rework. Simple example to this, I used to get really frustrated with how the handles on the cabinets in my kitchen would get so loose. And it would take me like a month to actually go and grab the screwdriver to fix it. So like it built up a month of frustration. Like, oh, this is loose again, but it's not a priority for me to go and find the screwdriver, the right one, in order to fix it. So I started leaving a screwdriver of the right size in the drawer in the kitchen. So now anytime the cabinet handles get loose, I'm like, I'm going to do it right away. I just take the screwdriver and I do it. And then it helps me stay in peace, because otherwise it would create so much frustration for nothing, right? It's so silly. It's just a loose handle. So these are the little things that will help us not just save time and effort, but remove the overwhelm. Because oftentimes when we're overwhelmed, it's one little thing that just adds to the drop and makes it even go deeper into the overwhelm. So for those familiar with 5S, my tips for this is 5S your home and 5S your electronic files. For those not familiar with 5S, it's a 5-step process for workplace organization. It stems from 5 Japanese words that start with S that have been translated into English. And here you can check out Tracy's Bust Mess with 5S if you want to learn more about the 5S of sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. All right, so check that out. Maybe Tracy, you can pop your link, pop your link in the chat so they can all have access to your Bust Mess with 5S.
I will do that. Thanks. I didn't know I was in the presentation.
I forgot to tell you, a little surprise. All right, let's move on to the last key element, capacity. Remember what I said earlier, you have limited energy resources, and we want that energy to go towards what creates value. So in terms of capacity, it's important to know your unique limits, not comparing yourself to the neighbor down the road or the colleague or the manager, your unique limits. Now, I use the image of a stovetop and oven to represent capacity. I know it's unusual, but other than the fact that, I love to cook and it's a big part of my life, I see this as a very powerful imagery for every person's individual capacity, because every stovetop has a limited number of cooking ranges. Some have 4, 5, or 6. Some have 2, right, in tiny homes, as well as limited space in the oven. And each of us has a unique amount of cooking ranges and oven space. We simply can't cook more than we have the capacity to do. As mentioned in the time element, knowing how much time you need for work on specific tasks is key. So it's important to know exactly what is needed. You may have targets, performance indicators, and key responsibilities in your work, but do you know exactly how much time each task and step in a process should take? And what about your home tasks? Do you know how long it takes you to clean the house? Generally, express clean versus deep clean? This has a direct link with 3 of the elements: focus, time, and capacity. How can we expect to manage our capacity in the best way if we don't know what is demanded of us in terms of focus, how long each of these take in terms of time, and how it matches or mismatches our personal capacity? There's so much to share here, but not enough time. And like I said, I go into more details in the Stay Focused ebook. But for now, here are 3 tips. First, identify your capability. What can you actually handle? Be honest with yourself. We're not superheroes. We're not superhuman. We're human. Think about a printer. You would never push more paper into it to make it go faster. It can only go 1 paper at a time. So if we push too much into the system, this leads to less efficiency, poor quality, overwhelm. So why do we do that with ourselves? And why do we expect that of others? So be honest with yourself in this moment of your life. What can you actually handle? And of course, this can change, 5 years down the line or 5 years ago, depending on what is on your plate as well. And of course, try to make your capability as visible as much as possible. Number 2, build flex time. So going back to that notion of 15%, that flex time gives you space to deal with the urgent fires that always come up. It also allows you to have time for learning, innovation, for rest, for connection. Your energy is a limited highway. So what's better? An ambulance going down a busy highway or an empty highway, right? So your energy is like the highway. It's limited by the capacity of how large the highway is. Is it sometimes 2 lanes and 4 lanes or 5 lanes? If your highway is full of cars, how on earth can you make the important and essential things flow? You just can't. Like giving your full attention to your kids, or accomplishing your home care tasks, or resting. Resting is actually really essential, or connecting with friends and family, or finalizing that important presentation for work. So think about it. How can you build this 15% flex time in your day-to-day, both at work and at home? And the third one is practice saying no. Woo, that's the hardest one, eh? Brené Brown says that daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. Oh my goodness, I feel that one deep in my heart because that is the one that I have the hardest time with, and I'm intentionally practicing. But when you think about it, saying no can only come if you have a clear goal and purpose in mind, right? Once that's clarified, then you know where you're going, and you can say no and set limits to everything else because you know this is where you're going. That's the essential. All right, let's pull up the next poll. Which of the 4 key elements do you find the most challenging for you? Is it focus, time, space, or capacity?
Okay, poll is launched.
Thank you.
How we do. I have none of these problems. I'm just kidding.
What does Mr. Yoshino say? No problem is a problem.
Right. My challenge is denial.
That's the 5th element.
Right. Okay. Closing the poll and sharing results.
Awesome.
Okay. So 49%. That's almost half.
Wow.
It is half. Say focus is the challenge. 18% say is time. 11% say space, and 22% say capacity. Very
Amazing.
interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Somebody
Tracy.
said, how come we can't select all? I wanted none, and Anne wants all.
I know. I forced you into picking one. And there's a strategy to that. So stay tuned. We'll get to that. I want to share super quickly about the Flowcused continuum, because this is about integrating the 4 key elements for better daily flow with 3 simple phases.
Hey,
The first
Stefany.
phase is,
Stefany,
yes.
sorry, really quickly, we did have a question from Scott. He was wondering,
Oh.
what was the difference between time and capacity again?
Time is really about how time relates to your energy and your motivation, and knowing how much, how much time it takes to do things, which is the link to capacity. So capacity is that we each have a unique capacity. Think about the stovetop image, right? You may be able to take on, let's say we're talking about work, you may be able to take on 2 big projects and 2 small tasks, for example, on a 3-month, journey, while as someone could take on 5 big projects, and we're all unique in that way, right? We have different capacity, which means that container, think about a glass of water. It can only contain what it can contain. But what we do is we overflow it, right? Thinking about our person, that relates to our time, our energy, our motivation, and everything that who we are, what we bring to life. Hopefully that helps. All right.
Thank you so much, Stefany.
You're welcome. Okay, so the Flowcused continuum, I like that, Scott. Time of day versus amount of time in a day. That's a nice way of looking at it. Thank you. All right, so the first phase is to know. This is all about gaining clarity on your unique needs. You need to be able to sift through the noise to identify exactly what is needed. What do you need as a person? In what amount? How often and why? Think about this as the target. What is it that you actually need? So here's a personal example. In order for me to feel my best and show up as my best, I know I personally need to have my morning smoothie, which I call my nourish drink, and some fruit, okay? I also need to eat a nourishing and filling salad for lunch almost every day of the week. If I don't, I won't feel energized and I will likely feel bloated. And so that means that my target every day is to have my nourish drink with fruit and then a salad for lunch, at least 5 out of the 7 days of the week. This contributes to my overall purpose of optimal health. Now, I know this is my desired target because I have experienced not having that. And this is the minimum that I need in order to do my best, to be at my best and stay focused in health. So having that self-reflection of what is it that you need? What are your unique needs? Whether it's, health, eating related, or all dimensions of your life. That's the first step of the Flowcused continuum. And then you set. This is where the limit happens. You set the boundary needed to contain your flow of energy. And this is all about having the discipline to set a limit. It's necessary and it's challenging for most to do. We often feel like we don't want to hurt others if we set a boundary that we need in order to contain the flow of our energy. And after doing the work of knowing exactly what is needed and what amount, how often, and why, it's important to be clear about that limit that you will set, and for both yourself and for others, and why. So write it down, make it visible, repeat it to yourself often so you don't forget. And this is linked again to your clear goal and purpose. So if I go back to my nourish drink example, I've explored and experimented with various ways to set limits around my focus, time, space, and capacity in order to help me get to that target. And specifically, I know that in order for me to successfully have salad mostly every day, I need to make time on Sundays for prepping all the veggies. This ensures my success rate is close to 100%. This also means I need to set limits on what I will focus on, what I will spend time on, how organized my kitchen is, and how much I take on in terms of capacity on any given Sunday in order to successfully allow me to spend the time I need on my veggie prep so that I can have my salad every day. See where I'm going with this? All right. The third phase is to keep. This is all about sticking to it, no matter what. It's about maintaining the practice and actually doing what you know and set out to do, what you know and have identified that you need in order to stay focused. It's also important to make sure you are clear on the expectations you will, not the expectations, the exceptions that you will make to not respect your limits, and always have a plan B in place. So going back to my nurse drink example and salad, to ensure that I do my Sunday veggie prep, I usually don't pack in more than one activity on a Sunday. So as you can imagine, that's not always possible, especially in the summer when it's so nice outside. But I know what I would make exceptions for. And I know that if I make those exceptions, I will reserve time on Monday evening to do my veggie prep, understanding that it might shuffle some things in my week, but as much as possible, I will not allow it to throw off, my entire week. So I'll accept the trade-off as long as they stay as exceptions and don't become the norm in my day-to-day. So the keep phase is all about having the operating system that supports your limits. The operating system is comprised of multiple operating patterns, kind of like routines. An operating pattern is a series of steps followed to go from point A to point B. So my operating pattern for my Sunday veggie prep is that on Fridays, I look at the fridge and pantry to see what I have. I start creating a meal prep outline for the week, and I make a groceries list. And if I know that I'll be going to the farmer's market that Sunday, or that I won't be going to the farmer's market on Sunday, then I submit an order through Instacart. I don't know if you guys have Instacart, but it's like the best tool for overwhelmed moms. So you basically order your groceries and it gets delivered to you. And I get the veggies so that I can have everything I need to start my veggie prep on the Sunday. So understanding your operating pattern will help you be more intentional about how things are done and what is needed to improve the flow. So think about your operating patterns around your discipline, focus, time management, space organization, and capacity planning. I saw that, Tracy, you put the link in the chat. This is another free bonus for all of you, because in order to manage your day as a flow system, you need to be in continual alignment of the Flowcused continuum with the 4 key elements. All right, let me move briefly to the end piece, because it's not about what you know, it's about what you do. Putting these principles into practice is key to actually making improvements to creating a better and more effective daily flow. If you don't create simple, sustainable habits that you can keep up, you'll soon find yourself back at square one of the overwhelm. The phases of the Flowcused continuum will help you gain clarity on your current operating pattern and needs, and help you set ways to make sustainable change to stay focused. But you have to do the hard work. These concepts are so simple and silly, but you got to do the hard work. And really, isn't life just a big experiment anyways? So the fifth and final piece is to think about continuous experimentation and improvement using the PDCA cycle every day. So for those of you who have a lean background, you're familiar with the PDCA cycle, the scientific cycle of experimentation and improvement, or as Karen Ross would call it, the creative process for turning ideas into reality. I love how she says that. And using the scientific mindset with an approach such as the PDCA cycle is key to creating a better daily flow. So basically, the 4 cycle phases are plan, do, check, and adjust. So first, you'll understand what is happening with your whatever obstacles are getting in your way of staying focused. And then you pick something to experiment with. And then you'll move to the check phase, which is how you'll reflect on how things are going and verify if the experiment has helped or not. And then you'll adjust. So you can reflect on how will you continue to move forward, and will you turn this experiment into a new habit, or will you go through another cycle of the PDCA? All right, let's move to our last poll. I know that I just kind of zipped through this. How useful do you think applying the 4 key elements and flowcus continuum would be to you?
Okay, poll is open. So far, nobody has said not useful, so that's good.
Thank you.
All right, good. Keep going. We have a couple, 70% participated. Wait, maybe for a few more. Good, thank you.
Amazing.
All right. We usually close at about 80% participation just in case people aren't flowcused and they can't do that. I'm going to end the poll and
Multitasking
share the
much?
results. Okay, so 30% say somewhat useful and 70% say
Wow.
very useful.
Amazing.
Yay.
Thank you, everybody. That really warms my heart. All right, this is my last slide, everyone. You've been so incredible. Thank you. And thank you to Tracy and Elizabeth for having me here. If you are interested in learning more, check out my Stay Flowcused ebook and online course at go.stefanyoliver.com. And for sure, connect with me. Please, let's connect. Find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of that. I would love to hear from you. Send me your comments and your questions anytime. It will be my pleasure to chat with you. So are there any questions in the chat at all?
Let's see. There were a few questions. Let me see here if I go back really quickly. Someone was asking what you do to handle batch work. For example, a lot of stuff needs to be moved from the living room to the garage. Any suggestions on cleaning up that mess or stopping cleaning or not having to do all that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd love to see if anyone has some tips on that. I think of batch work as a necessity sometimes depending on the right context. So for example, when you do laundry, I mean, you're not going to wash one piece of clothing at the same time, right? Like you have to do it in a batch. It just makes more sense. And I know we have a habit of putting, like, we have like a kind of like a basket in the stairs that we'll just kind of put stuff to bring them up. The problem is, everyone walking over that except for me. So yeah, it depends. I think that's a struggle I would say for most, right? Like unless you have the time to put it away right away. I heard something the other day that said, one of the best advice is never leave a room empty-handed. And I love that so much, right? Because things tend to pile up and in places where they don't belong. So imagine if everyone in your home had the habit of not leaving a room empty-handed. So always grabbing something, whatever it is, even if it's for just one thing, a dish to put in a dishwasher, so then you're not carrying like 5 or 6 dishes at the end of the week. And that becomes a big batch. So hopefully that helps.
Good. Thank you so much. Okay, I have a question. I don't see any other questions just yet, but I will say, I'm going to be honest and tell you that when I have tried to set boundaries before, I have had people basically challenge my boundaries to say, well, why, I don't know why that's your boundary. To me, I'm like, what just happened? Right. So, if I say, well, this is what works for me. And if I sort of give them an explanation of this is my own boundary, then they always push back like, well, maybe you should change it. What?
Yeah.
Well, how do you run into that? I mean, I've had to actually tell people not tell them it's my own boundary so that they don't test it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I try to always remember is that no is a complete sentence. It's like and you know what? I had someone call me the other day and I know she wanted me to do something for her and I just did not have the bandwidth to take on anything more right now. And I said to her, I don't really have the capacity. I didn't say I don't really. I said I do not have the bandwidth. That's the word I use. I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now, but I can help you find someone who can. And so I think just remembering that no is a complete sentence. We do not have to justify our boundaries. We actually don't.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we feel like we need to so that it doesn't hurt the other person.
Yeah.
But if the person is hurt by us setting a boundary, and sorry to say, that's on them, not on you.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And as long as it's done respectfully and kindly, obviously, right? Like it's all in the spirit of respect and kindness. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, Stefany, thank you so much for such a wonderful webinar, something we can all use and stay focused. I really appreciate it. We loved having you at the cafe. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the webinar. We had a great turnout for your webinar, so that's awesome.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Day. Bye.